Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about Microsoft Excel and how to make some more advanced tables as well as some graphs. So the first thing you want to do is open Microsoft Excel. And it's important to note that I'm using the same version of Microsoft Excel that you all have on your school computers. However, if you're using your own computer or a computer at home or a friend's computer, things might look a little bit different because you're using a different version. Anyway, the first thing, once you've opened it, you notice we just get a large spreadsheet that we can put data into. So the first thing you want to do is type your data. And this could take some time, but make sure you type it in correctly and accurately. So once you've done that, you can see this is all my data that I collected. We have our times, we have our height of the water column, and then we have the horizontal distance that it sprayed at that height at that time. And notice also in the very top, I've placed units in the heading of each column of data. This is a very, very important thing to do because units are important, but also you don't want to put units with your numbers. And the reason for that is because when you go to graph your data, those units will mess up Microsoft Excel and your data won't graph correctly. So it's very important that we just put our units in the header instead of in the actual columns. So once I have my data, the next thing I want to do is I want to calculate a new column. And I have about 30 data points here, and so it would take a very long time to individually calculate data from each data point. So luckily, Microsoft Excel will take care of it for us. So I'm going to create a new column, and I'm going to call it exit velocity. So this will be the velocity that the water sprayed out of the nozzle with. And so all I have to do is come up with a formula for the exit velocity of the water. And so based on our discussions of projectile motion, we should know that the exit velocity is equal to the total distance it travels divided by time. So you need to calculate the time that it takes for the water to reach the ground, and then you have your horizontal distance right here. So I'm going to go ahead and type in a formula. I'm going to start my formula with the equal sign. And so first thing we need to do is put in the equal sign, and then we can type in our formula, which is going to be horizontal distance. So I click on this cell. Notice it puts the cell name instead of the value, divided by our time. And in my case, for my data, I calculated the time to be 0.28, but your time is going to be different, so you need to calculate your time. And then we press enter. And notice it puts in our exit velocity right there. Oh, forgot to add units. And so it calculates my exit velocity. So now once I have the first one done, I can just copy that cell and paste it to all the other cells, and it'll adjust the formula appropriately to include the horizontal distance for that data point. And so we can look through our data and we can see that our exit velocity is steadily declining as the horizontal distance declined, which is exactly the trend that we would expect to see. And we can continue to add as many more calculated columns as we want to in the same fashion, where we just type in the formula for the very first value, and then we can copy and paste it to all of the other cells. The second thing that we want to do is we want to be able to make a graph of our data, and we want to be able to select which columns exactly we want to graph. So the first thing we want to do is go up to Insert, up here at the top, and then in the charts, we want to select Scatter Plot. We have to use Scatter Plot, and so we can see there are a variety of different ones. It doesn't really matter which one you pick, they're just different aesthetically. I prefer this center one right here. So before I select it, I'm going to make sure none of my data is selected, and then I select the plot. And so notice it pops up with a graph, but the graph is completely blank, and this is because no data has been selected. So to select the exact data that you want to graph, right-click anywhere in the graph and go to Select Data. And so once this dialog comes up, we can add the different data sets that we want to graph. And so we click Add. I'm going to come up with a series name, which in this case I'll call Small Nozzle Velocity, because this is the data that I collected with the smallest nozzle. So then I select my x-axis. What values do I want on the x-axis? So I can click this little button right here at the end and then highlight the data that goes on the x-axis. And then I press enter, and then I do the same thing with the y values here. So I click the little button at the end, and then I highlight what I want on the y-axis. And then I click enter. Enter. And then we can get a little sneak peek of our graph. And you can see it's already graphed it. Now if I want to add another line, I can do the same thing. I just go to add, and then I give it a name and select the x and the y values for the new line. And so in this lab, you're going to have to graph 3 different data sets on the same graph. So you'll need to do this and add all 3 data sets using this dialog. But for now, I'm just going to click OK, close, and then the one last thing that you want to do with your graphs is go up here to Quick Layouts, and then find one of these dialogs that includes a title, an x-axis label, a y-axis label, and a key. Like this one looks good. And then with these axes, I can go ahead and fill in the relevant data, so that way my entire graph is labeled and ready to go. And then the last thing I recommend is right-click on it again and go down to Move Chart and put it on its own sheet. So New Sheet, click OK, and all that does is moves it to a new chart like this, so it's a full page in size instead of really, really small. And then you can just print this size and turn that in with your lab. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment or email me, and I'd be more than happy to help you. I hope this has been helpful.